Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, Thursday, March 7th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they ultimately ended up turning out. Then after that, we'll get moved over to RotoWire, talk through the injuries for the 7-game main slate on both sides for today. There are going to be a couple teams there on the back-to-back, so we won't have too much information on them, but we'll have that posted as the day moves along down in the comments. And then after that, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and FanDuel, talk about my core picks for today. So it's going to be one player at each position. So point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. But without further ado, we'll get started with that recap of yesterday's picks. And with that being said, typically I do DraftKings and FanDuel separately, but since they were the exact same 5 players on both sites, I'm going to try to kind of do them together for today overall. If you guys don't like that, just leave some down below and I'll change that for the future. But we have campaign $4,100 on DraftKings. He has $4,000 on FanDuel. 31.25 points on DraftKings, 31 on FanDuel. He was a hit on both sites and a really good play overall. And then at shooting guard, we had Jordan Clarkson on both sites. He was exactly $6,800 on both. 24.5 points on DraftKings, so he was a miss there. And then on FanDuel was 23.5, so he was a miss over there as well. Played 34 minutes in this game. That was the good. The bad was kind of the shooting woes, so 5 for 17 from the field, 2 for 9 from 3. So just a really unfortunate day overall there. You know, a good matchup for the Chicago Bulls. Would expect a little bit more out of him, so just a little bit unfortunate there. And then at small forward, we had Franz Wagner, $7,400 on DraftKings, $7,500 on FanDuel. Got to 42.25 on DraftKings, so he was a hit over there. And then on FanDuel, he got to 42, so he was a hit over there as well. So really good play overall. He's a guy that's killed the Wizards so far this season, so hopefully you had him in your lineup just in general. And then we also had Andrew Wiggins, you know, whether you play him at small forward, power forward. And he was $5,200. Looking for 26 out of him on DraftKings. Got to 10.5, so he's a miss. And then on FanDuel, $4,900, looking for 24.25 on him. Got to 10.4, so he was a miss as well. So he ultimately only played 14 minutes in this game, 1 for 5 shooting from the field, and the game did end up being a massive blowout in favor of the Warriors. So a lot of factors there that did not work out too well for him. I did kind of forget that he was coming back from a personal issue, so it looks like there might have been a little bit of a minutes limit for him, plus the blowout just wasn't too favorable for him overall. But at the price tag that we had, looked like a pretty decent play overall, just did not unfortunately end up being the case. And then last but not least, we had Alfred Sengun, $8,000 on DraftKings, $8,400 on FanDuel. Got to 74.75 on DraftKings, so he was a really good hit there. And then on FanDuel, 69.8, so he was a hit over there as well. Ended up with a pretty big triple-double yesterday. Played extremely well. But with that being said, you know, a little bit of hit or miss day overall. Obviously, we had some really good plays in campaign. Franz Wagner and Alfred Sengun, if you had some other decent plays, some other good plays alongside them, still had a chance on cashing on yesterday's slate overall. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to RotoWire and talk about those injuries for tonight's slate overall. So once again, 7-game main slate. I believe it's 3 teams there on the back-to-back today, and I believe all 3 of those teams are playing in later games. So we're going to get started with the Brooklyn Nets. We got Cam Johnson, Ben Simmons, and Cam Thomas. All this is out for today, so we should see somebody else entering that starting lineup for the Brooklyn Nets. That 5th starter should be a little bit of a value play overall. And then we got Day'Ron Sharpe listed as questionable to play for tonight's game as well. Then on the Detroit Pistons side, we got Quinn Grimes listed as out, so no real changes for them once again today. And then we move over to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Jalen Clark and Karl Anthony Towns both out tonight, and then Jordan McLaughlin is listed as questionable to play due to illness. So obviously the biggest one here is going to be Karl Anthony Towns. Could open up some value, whether it's Kyle Anderson or Naz Reid in tonight's lineup as well. It doesn't really matter who starts. Both of them are going to be in play for GPPs just in general. But with that being said, if it ultimately ends up being Naz Reid getting the start, he becomes a lot more interesting. But, you know, I think it's probably going to be Kyle Anderson more likely than not, although he's been dealing with that knee injury as of late. So we'll just have to kind of see how that all shakes out. Pace-up spot versus the Pacers, so it should be a pretty good one for this Minnesota team overall. And then on the Pacers side, they are without Benedict Mathurin and Doug McDermott. So obviously Benedict Mathurin's kind of the biggest one there, the newest one. He's been one of their key bench pieces. So we'll see kind of who takes over some of his minutes because he's been playing a lot as of late. We'll see whether or not they ramp up Aaron Nesmith a little bit more minute-wise. So it could be a little bit of value on this Pacers team overall, though. And then we move over to the Miami Heat, who have Tyler Hero and Kevin Love both out for tonight. So pretty similar to what we've seen out of this Heat team as of late. So probably going to see Duncan Robinson in that starting lineup once again. Nikola Jokic has started the last couple games, so would assume that he stays in that place as well. And then on the Dallas Mavericks side, we got Luka Doncic and Maxi Kleber, both listed as probable to play. So it looks like they should be fully healthy for tonight's game overall. Then we move down to the Toronto Raptors, who have Scotty Barnes, Bruce Brown Jr., and Jakob Poeltl all out once again. And then we have Ochai Agbaji listed as questionable for tonight's game. He did leave their most recent game with an injury, so we'll see whether or not he's good to go tonight or not. I am kind of assuming that he'll be out for tonight's game. We'll see who ultimately does end up starting in his place. Probably going to be like Grady Dick or Jordan Nwora. I would assume that's probably going to be Jordan Nwora since he has started a couple games so far this season. And then on the Phoenix Suns side, we got Devin Booker, Damon Lee, Nazir Little, and Josh Okogie all out for tonight's game. So pretty similar to what we've seen out of this Phoenix Suns team in their most recent game. And then we move over to the Boston Celtics. Quetta's out once again, and then Jaylen Brown listed as questionable. And it's actually a new injury today, so it's kind of listed as a pelvis. Sounds like it could be a little bit of a groin strain there or somewhere in between there. So we'll see ultimately whether or not he plays or not. If he doesn't play, it's probably just going to be Al Horford in that starting lineup overall. And then on the Denver Nuggets side, we just got Kankar out once again, who's been out all year. We move down to Chicago Bulls and the Golden State Warriors. Both these teams are on the back-to-back, so we'll have to see what their injury reports look like as the day moves along. And then we move over to the San Antonio Spurs, who are without Victor Wembanyama for tonight's game, going to open up a pretty big value in Zach Collins overall. And then for the Sacramento Kings, they are on the back-to-back, so we'll have to see what their injury report looks like as the day moves along. Maybe there's a chance that De'Aaron Fox ends up sitting tonight since he had been dealing with that ankle injury and then only been back for a couple of games now at this point in time. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on all the injuries in play for tonight's slate overall. As always, I'll be listing all the injury updates down in the comments below throughout the day as they do come out, as well as the starting lineups as they get announced throughout the night. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks over there. We're going to start off at the point guard position with a guy that I don't think's been in our core picks at all this season, but it's Dennis Schroeder. For the Brooklyn Nets, $6,100, looking for 30-31 out of him, averaging 28 so far in the season. It's a good spot tonight versus the Detroit Pistons, who have really struggled against that point guard position. And then factor in, there is no Cam Thomas. There's no Cam Johnson. There's a couple different guys missing for this Brooklyn Nets, so a little bit of extra playing time, a little bit of extra usage to go around for a guy like Dennis Schroeder, who's been playing really well as of late. Currently having projected for about 32, 33 fantasy points tonight, so should be a pretty good one for him overall. Has a little bit upside for more. Obviously, there's a little bit of downside for less, especially if he's not shooting the ball that great. Then at shooting guard, we're going to go with Duncan Robinson. He is $5,800. Played pretty well for this Miami Heat team as of late, playing monster minutes for them as well. If his shot's going down once again tonight, he's going to look like a pretty good play overall. Looking for 29 out of him, averaging about 23.5 so far on the season. Not the greatest matchup in the world versus Dallas Mavericks, but still opportunities to knock down some threes just in general. Currently, I'm projected for, about 29, 30 fantasy points tonight. Could have a little bit of upside for more. And then obviously does have that downside for less if that three ball's not going down. Then at small forward, we're going to go to Anthony Edwards here, $8,800, looking for 44 out of him, averaging just over 43.5 so far in the season. It's a pace-up matchup tonight against the Indiana Pacers. There is no Karl Anthony Towns, so a little bit extra usage to go around for a guy like Anthony Edwards. So really do like his upside tonight. Do currently have him projected for about 46 fantasy points. Has some upside for more, especially in this great fast-paced matchup. If his shot's going down, if he's doing a little bit of everything, should be a pretty big benefit for him overall. And I think he's a guy that really does have some strong high-end upside for today's slate overall. And then at power forward, we're going to go to Keegan Murray. He's $5,800. Not coming off the greatest game in the world, but we're looking for 29 points out of him, averaging just over 28 so far in the season. Pace-up spot tonight versus the Sacramento Kings. There is no Victor Wembanyama, so maybe if he wants to drive the ball, it could help him out a little bit in that regard. But at the same time, Keegan Murray's a little bit more of a shooter. It is a good matchup for that as well. If there is no De'Aaron Fox tonight, probably even gets a little bit bigger bump in terms of usage and shot attempts as well. But with that being said, currently I'm projected for about 30 fantasy points tonight. So, he might be one of those guys that does ultimately change throughout the day, but still like the upside that he could present overall. And then last but not least, at center, we're going to go with Zach Collins, $4,300. Only looking for 21, 22 out of him. He's averaging 24 on the season. Obviously, a little skewed just because he did start at the beginning of the year and had some bigger games there as well. But there is no Victor Wembanyama tonight, so he will be the starting center for the San Antonio Spurs team tonight. Probably plays 28, 30 minutes and looks pretty good in those minutes. He is a pretty decent fantasy point per minute guy just in general. So at this point in time, do currently have him projected for about 29 DraftKings points tonight. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you'll have $19,200 remaining, $6,400 per player remaining. So a decent chunk of money left over. Obviously, if you really want to pay up for somebody, you could still probably do that. Maybe it's not Luka, maybe it's kind of somebody in that next tier down, and then kind of pick some value plays from there. Obviously, there is some value that could be popping up throughout the day as we do get some of this injury news throughout the day and some of those injury reports as well for the teams on the back-to-back. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there. So FanDuel, I don't feel as confident in today, but, we're going to start off with point guard Dennis Schroeder, $6,600. Everything I said on DraftKings still kind of applies here. There is no Cam Johnson. There is no Cam Thomas for the Brooklyn Nets team, so some shot attempts, some usage to go around just in general. He's been playing big minutes as of late. It's a great matchup tonight versus the Detroit Pistons. $6,600, we're looking for at least 33 out. Currently, I'm projected for about 32, 33. That doesn't really change too much between DraftKings and FanDuel for a guy like Dennis Schroeder, but he's averaging about 27 so far on the season. Like what he's been doing as of late. Looks like a pretty safe play. Obviously, he is a pick that could be changing out throughout the day, especially on the FanDuel side overall today. And then at shooting guard, we're going to go with Duncan Robinson, $5,900, so $100 more expensive than over on DraftKings. Obviously, you get the extra bonus in terms of three-pointers on DraftKings, so that is something that really does help a guy like him out. But, if he's making those shots, if he's getting a couple of rebounds, a couple of assists here, maybe even a steal, could be a guy that pays off for us. He's playing big minutes with no Tyler Hero out there once again. Looking for 29 30 out of him. Currently, I'm projected for about 29 on the FanDuel side tonight. Has some upside for more if his shot's going down, if he's really scoring the ball well, and then contributing in a couple other categories here and there in the meantime. If that shot's not going down, probably a guy that's going to hurt our lineups, but I do like the upside with him overall. Then small forward, we're going to go down to Keldon Johnson. So this was probably one of the tougher picks on the FanDuel side for me today. He's $5,700. It's a good pace-up spot versus the Kings tonight. He has been coming off the bench, but he's had some pretty strong games as of late. You're looking for 28, 29 out of him, essentially what he's been averaging so far in the season. Obviously, some of that was starting, some of it has been coming off the bench. But when he gets big minutes, he does pretty well just in general. And there is no Victor Wembanyama tonight, so he might get an increase in usage once again. So do like him quite a bit. If you are interested in him on the DraftKings side, he's $4,900 over there. So it looks like a pretty strong value over there as well. But with that being said, currently I'm projected for right around 30 fantasy points tonight. Has some pretty strong upside for more, though, in this matchup and with no Victor Wembanyama tonight. Then at power forward, we're going to go with Kelly Olynyk, $6,500, coming off a really strong game. Don't mind him tonight versus the Phoenix Suns, although not the greatest matchup for him versus Joseph Nurkic, who could kind of bully him with some of his physicality just in general. But if Kelly Olynyk can get him away from the basket, if he can stretch him out, and if he can get him into some foul trouble, could be a pretty strong game for him overall. $6,500 seems like a pretty fair price tag. We're looking for 32, 33 out. Currently, I'm projected for about 34 fantasy points tonight. And then last but not least, we're going down to Mr. Rudy Gobert at $8,600. Center was not the greatest one for me today overall. Obviously, we have Kelly Olynyk that we could play there as well. I kind of wanted to play him there, but then power forward wasn't really standing out for me in terms of the core picks today, so I bumped him up. So we got Rudy Gobert once again, $8,600. No Karl-Anthony Towns today. Going against the Pacers, it's a pace-up spot just in general. Should play some pretty big minutes, have some pretty big rebounding opportunities, so do like that for Rudy Gobert tonight. If you can get like a couple extra blocks in there, could help us out a little bit at the same time as well. But currently I'm projected for about 45 fantasy points on the FanDuel side tonight. Could have some pretty strong upside for more. Obviously does have some downside for less at the same time as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed on the FanDuel side, you have $26,700 remaining. Just under $6,700 per player remaining. So not the worst amount left over, but looking a little bit more like a balance build type of day. Once again, obviously, we'll see what value does end up popping up throughout the day. Could open up this slate just a little bit more in general. Obviously, there are some higher priced players that we can pay up for, whether it's a Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic. A couple of different options out there at this point in time as well. And then I will mention, too, Zach Collins did not make my core on FanDuel. He's $6,100 over here. So I do have him projected for about 30, 31 fantasy points. If you want to play him as kind of a GPP play, you can definitely do that as well, though. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings for today, March 7th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then with that being said, I do ask that you please note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then as always, I'll be listing all the injury updates down in the comments below, as well as the starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the night. And then as always, I will also have my updated core coming out about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock. That will be listed down in the comments as a pinned comment, so definitely be on the lookout for that. If there are any other changes to that updated core after that point in time, I will leave them as a reply to the pinned comment. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we just got NBA DFS going on in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday. But, coming up at the end of the month, we'll be doing some MLB DFS and some UFL DFS. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely be sure to check that out as well. And if that's something you never tried before and you want to learn a little bit more about that, definitely check it out as well. We're more than happy to have you join in with that. And then if you do have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop them down in the comments of those videos as well. Definitely would appreciate the support and, just kind of that new experience for you as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Prize Picks, and Parlay Play. If you are a brand new user to any one of those three sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. For BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. And then with that being said, if you have any questions about that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.